He'd never hurt me as my husband did. He listens when I talk. 5 heart-wrenching confessions of Reddit that will make you just want to hug the people who wrote them. My wife is leaving, possibly in love with another man, and I just desperately want her back. My wife, 24F, and I, 24M, have been together since we were sophomores in high school. We were each other's first love. We've had our rocky moments these past 9 years, but still loved each other. We got married when we were just shy of 21. She joined the military because I couldn't for medical reasons, and we had our baby girl 13 months ago. My wife has always been a more outgoing extrovert. She loves being outdoors. She loves being spontaneous and taking pictures of different experiences. She loves life. I, on the other hand, love the idea of those things but am much more comfortable at home with my little family. We'll go somewhere fun and exciting and I'll just get stressed out by the littlest things. I've always known it was an issue, but I didn't know how bad it was and how much it was affecting her. Ever since the pandemic started, it's been much worse because we feel like we can't go anywhere. Over time we got used to sitting at home and watching TV. I knew she didn't like it, but when I asked her what she'd rather do, she would say that she didn't know. I guess at some point over the summer when we were visiting people and people were visiting us, which is always stressful for both of us, but I tried to play peacekeeper, she realized that while she still loved me, she wasn't in love with me. I knew we were having issues, but I didn't know how bad they were and she didn't want me to change. So when she started hanging out with a co-worker that I thought was a friend, and trusted because his wife had cheated on him, I put aside my insecurities and jealousy and let her. I did want to go outdoors with her to all these places, but I felt responsible for the baby and she felt like I would be stressed out and not enjoy it, take away her joy. The very last hike they went on is when things cascaded. The hike was nice and afterwards they decided to grab dinner and ice cream while I was home with the baby. They'd been late getting home before and I would be upset, but this was the first time I knew in my gut something was happening. On the way home, literally as I was putting the baby down to sleep, they stopped on the side of the road to talk. I guess she had started to develop feelings for him and told him. He confessed that he's always had feelings for her but suppressed them. They kissed in his car, made out, and she climbed on top of him. What really gets me is that it was him, he, was the one that stopped her from going any further. They started to drive home and talk a bit more. When she got home, she was honest and told me everything. I was pissed. I grabbed my jacket and her phone, so that she couldn't tell him, and I went to confront him. When I got there he made me wait in the cold to make sure I wasn't planning anything stupid. I have a daughter, so of course I couldn't do anything to jeopardize her. We spoke for a while. He told me that he has developed feelings for my wife and loves her, that he tried to suppress them out of respect for me, but the dam broke when she confessed to him. I made sure their stories lined up, told him to stay away from her, and I left. That entire weekend was spent trying to figure out if my wife wanted to work things out. I still love my wife. I was willing to act like what happened was a mistake that would never happen again and we could get through it. I was willing to forgive and forget right then and there, but she didn't know what she wanted. She didn't want to keep hurting me, but she didn't want to be unhappy with me. She still loved me, but wasn't in love with me. She had feelings for both of us and didn't know how to get rid of them. I wanted him to stay away, but I let them, more like she let me come with, talk somewhere public where I could keep an eye on them. He said that he was gonna try to keep things professional because they worked together, but he still had feelings and she still had hers. When we got home I had one last talk with her, letting her know that if I left then I would take the baby with me because I've been the stay-at-home dad for almost a year. She had tears in her eyes, but she said okay. I asked her if that's what she wanted, me to leave, and she replied that it would probably be best. We had one last family meal together, one last night as husband and wife, and the next morning my daughter and I left for my parents' house. I have been at my parents' house ever since, giving her space to make her decision. I couldn't stop talking to her though because I was having nightly panic and anxiety attacks thinking about her. I wanted him to stay away, but I couldn't control what they do nor would I know. My wife tried to keep herself busy with work and the gym while I've been trying to think about my education and what career would best provide for my daughter. My family has been very supportive, but I haven't been able to eat or sleep. I wanted her to text or call me if anything happened with the guy or if she came to a decision. I found out the first Saturday night I was gone, almost a week to the hour after the confessions occurred, that she had made her decision while she was drinking at a get-together with all her co-workers. I frantically tried to call her, despite promising to give her space to decide, but no luck. Her boss let her crash at her place, the other guy as well, and I called her in the morning. She hasn't necessarily chosen him yet, she's not sure if her feelings are strong enough to be considered in love with, but decided that she won't choose me. I had been mentally preparing myself for this, but it still hurt. She still loves and always will, but she is no longer in love with me. She doesn't know if she's going to pursue the new guy, but there's good chance it will happen. After all, she did already try to screw him in his car. I spoke to him a bit later and he was less remorseful than before. Probably he didn't have to look me in the eyes. He apologized, but he can't change his feelings and can't control what she does. He will always love her and claims that he will be accepting if she ever cheated on him. He basically used his feelings as justification for everything and that he would worship the ground she walked on. Everything this guy said pissed me off. I couldn't even call him an asshole because in his heart he knows he isn't one. I also made sure he didn't know what she decided because he's giving her space and waiting for her to talk to him. I was pissed off and called my wife again to vent, because that's who I call. I told her that I accept that she doesn't want to be with me anymore and that I'll try to figure things out. I still love her. She still loves me. I made it known to her that the moment anything more happened with them to let me know. It would tear me a new one, but to hear that only person I've been with has fallen for someone else would be the final nail in the coffin. She wants me to get my education and find a career that makes me happy. She says she wants me to find someone that will make me happy and loves me and my daughter the way I love her. If we can make amends someday, it would be nice to be friends again, or maybe more. I still want her to see the baby, but we've had to call her every time to FaceTime our daughter. She still loves our daughter, she doesn't want me to take her away and I won't. That is my situation. Now here is my confession. I still love my wife. I let her know that she genuinely makes me happy. She says that love isn't enough because she doesn't feel happy, but she still loves me. I like to think there is still a chance that we work things out if I give her enough space. I tell myself that everything has been set in stone since they kissed in the car. I feel like saying that only pushes her to rip off the band-aid so that she doesn't feel like she is dragging me along. At the same time, I worry that I will still wait patiently like a spineless worm with no self-respect for her to come back to me even if things get romantic. I know I need to find something, but I will feel guilty and sick to my stomach if I talk to another woman, me still loving my wife and trying to preserve the whole "you're the only one I've ever been with" thing. I am typically a very logical person, but my emotions keep me from what I know should be done. I know I didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but I still apologize to her and blame myself. The only thing keeping me together is my daughter. I understand that things most likely will not work out with my wife. I am going to focus on my daughter as well as go to school and get a career that will let me provide for her. I have a relative in that particular career field and he is doing everything he can to help me out. Truly the only thing keeping me together is my daughter. I had an affair. And I hate myself for it. My husband is a good man, he just doesn't listen to me. If what I'm saying isn't what he wants to hear, it's like I'm talking to a brick wall. I love him but I'm unhappy and frustrated. He's been verbally and emotionally abusive but we worked through that. Though I haven't forgiven him, I still don't really trust him. I'm waiting for the abuse to start again because I'm so scared. It nearly killed me. I was so unhappy, I had a plan and a note written out. I was going to end my life because I know him. He'd never divorce me. I'm his wife, I belong to him. I met someone and he saved my life. He showed me kindness and happiness and he listened to me. He was kind and gentle and caring. Everything my husband in his aggressive depression wasn't. I fell in love. I still love him more than a little bit despite still trying to make it work. We never got intimate but we made out and cuddled naked. We slept in the same bed. I'll think of him when sleeping with my husband. He'd never hurt me as my husband did. He listens when I talk. My husband has no idea. He boasts about no matter how bad it got between us, I was always loyal and he could always count on me. I want to tell him but he'd never forgive me. He'd make my life miserable. I feel so guilty and I hate myself for it. I am homeless and living outside behind this building. I just want to show others in the same boat that it's important not to give up. I started my job in the middle of last week. Although this is embarrassing, I just wanted to share my life. I promise myself I will never give up. I will get out of homelessness by sleeping out here. I go back to work in 6 hours. I don't have anyone to talk to, so I come on here to post to help my mental state. This place has been my only solace. I'm homeless and about to call it a night behind this building, but I won't be for long. I'm saving up everything. I'm close to my goal as well. I will have this apartment before the end of March. I can't wait until I get my first check. I took a wash off, it has a faucet back here. I got some soap. Don't give up. I sometimes hate being black. It is exhausting. It's tiresome to just exist and be hated and discriminated against. I didn't choose to be born black, but a lot of people choose actively every day to treat me less than because of my skin color. Everyone is prejudged based on appearance, that's human nature. However, there's the malicious prejudgments that the whole world seems to have for black people. There is literally not a corner of this world that doesn't have extreme hatred for black people. Before anyone tells me that it isn't a big deal, or you should live with it. I have, and I am tired. Imagine getting at an airport at around 1 a.m. because your flight was delayed and now there's no public transport to rely on to get you home. But every taxi you ask denies you even when you ask to be dropped off at the nearest bus station. You see, they are not actively taking any rides and are literally ignoring you to ask the people behind you where they are going, in spite of the fact that you asked first and the people behind you weren't even interested. Let me give you a hint, they were white. They do this a couple more times until they find a customer they want. It takes you crying your eyes out for one person to even offer to help you. That's what discrimination is. People refusing to accept my money for whatever reason, even when I try my best to accommodate them on the fact that it was late at night. Discrimination is also being turned away for service from an establishment, but your white friends are allowed in because they arrived a few minutes before you, so you couldn't go in together. Discrimination is being denied boarding even after you have taken the steps to do everything you are supposed to. You check in early. You arrive at the airport 2.5 hours early, you have your passport, you have your covered certificate, everything checks and you've gone through security. It's not wanting to get angry when you are rightfully so, because a bad situation could get worse for you if you get angry. Getting angry is a privilege. It's pointing out you've been wronged and multiple people passing the blame in order not to be held liable. It's being held up at the airport for 8+ hours because the gate agent decided that my boarding pass out of everyone's was invalid. But you need a valid boarding pass to even get through security, as in you have to scan it, twice at some airports. I showed her my receipt, as a proof of purchase. I showed her the plane's app to show her that I was on the right plane and the date and time were correct. Only for her to come up with the excuse that I had changed my booking when all the things I had showed her showed otherwise. She pretended to call the ticketing office, which I later found out had closed much earlier that day. So there was no way she was calling the ticketing office as she had claimed. You end up having to pay the airline a substantial amount to book a flight home. That puts you out of living wages for about 3 weeks that you essentially need to survive, especially in a foreign country, because they are blameless and the gate lady does not work for the airline. They offer their deepest apologies and now you have to get a lawyer, which is more expensive. This is just the tip of the iceberg, mind you, but I'm just giving you perspective. I don't see how any of the things that happened above could have possibly happened to me if I was white. I am just exhausted of having to dedicate mental power to protect myself from racial discrimination. I just don't want to have to dread doing the things I love, going to new places, experiencing new cultures simply because there's a very big chance of not being welcomed or being mistreated. I'm a 35-year-old, fat, bald, unlovable man, who has never even kissed a girl. I'm simply a victim of bad genetics and unfortunate circumstance. While I have definitely been rejected by many women, not all of them did so in cruel or hurtful ways. I have numerous health problems and take medications that make it extremely difficult to lose weight. Many people look at me with visible disgust if they see me on the street. In my 35 years of life I have never kissed, hugged or so much as been touched by a woman in any romantic way. I have definitely struggled with depression and loneliness through the years, and I still do. I used to be bitter in my 20s, especially as the people around me started getting into serious relationships and getting married. Around that time I also had easily the worst rejection by a woman in my life. It honestly was the last time I asked a woman out. We worked together and she had always been so nice to me despite my goblinoid appearance, and is one of the most beautiful people I've ever met. Well, after weeks of hyping myself up, I asked her if she'd want to get coffee with me sometime, admittedly very awkwardly. The look of horror on her face said it all. The first words out of her mouth were, "Oh God. Sorry. You're... I mean no thank you." I kind of expected that, so I wasn't entirely surprised. It wasn't the first time, but for some reason it cut deeper than others. To make matters worse, she told people in the office I asked her out, including the HR person. Here's where things get messed up. I actually got called into a meeting with HR because of it and talked to about how I made her uncomfortable and how if my behavior towards women in the office didn't change there would be consequences. I honestly couldn't believe it. I know it's just my word online, but I honestly didn't say anything inappropriate or try to pressure her at all. To make matters worse, I definitely noticed a change in how I was treated at work. People regarded me as even more of an outsider than before. I ended up quitting after a few months of that. It honestly seemed really extreme to me. I had no intention of making her uncomfortable, and I would have been okay with a simple no thank you. Inside I get it, it might also not have been professional to ask out someone I work with. But I asked her to just have coffee with me. I didn't think it'd be a big deal. That happened about 4 years ago, and honestly I think it really messed with my head. I really just kind of gave up after that. I have a work from home job and honestly didn't leave my apartment during the entire pandemic. I try to go out now at least twice a week just for my own mental health, but I haven't had a real conversation with a woman in probably years now. I just work, try to get some exercise in if I can, and live life. I'm trying to take baby steps to put myself out there, but honestly it's scary. I'm terrified. A beautiful woman smiled and said hi to me just yesterday when I was trying to go on a walk for exercise. She looked at me and smiled, one of the most beautiful smiles I've ever seen. It honestly didn't just make my day, it made my year. It feels good to write this out since I don't really talk to anyone about this, but I lost 2 pounds this month already. I know it's not a lot, but between that random woman's smile and that, I've been feeling really good. Thank you for listening till the end. I'm sure the authors appreciate you hearing their stories. Let me know in the comments below what you would say to these people. I read everyone.